Hi everybody. I spent some time this weekend speaking with Sensei Marcus Davila, and we were talking about some of the challenges people have in understanding how the book discusses timing. I saw another meme going around again recently about Go no Sen, Sen no Sen, and Sen Sen no Sen, and watching the discussions around that. I still find that using those terms, people seem to be having a real difficult time creating a ton of value in their training and in their teaching, in their curriculum. And so in the book I use these very simple English terms, before, during, and after, and in some respect maybe they're too simple, too concise for understanding, but they're good for use once you have a common understanding of what we typically are using those as shorthand for. So this all really starts to understand before, during, and after. The way that we use it to teach skill development starts with the definition of self-defense and the idea that we begin in a bad place. We begin in a place where someone is attempting to impose their will on us. They're attempting to control us in some way. There are many forms of that. Someone might want to knock you out. They might want to throw you down and kick you in the teeth. They might want to grab your wrist and throw you in a van. They might want to do all kinds of things, but those are all forms of control. So we manage control by the type of control: pain, structure, breaking joints, knockouts, chokes, those kinds of things. But the point being that training in a self-defense related art presents you immediately with a two-phase problem. One is a now problem, one is a right after now problem. The now problem being stopping the immediate form of control. The right away, the soon problem being making sure it doesn't happen again, or some other attempt doesn't happen again. So you have to stop the attempt and then counter the attempt with some form of control of your own. Now, I don't consider evading, fleeing, a form of control. So taking that off the table, if you're stuck in a place where you have to defend yourself, we're talking not about fleeing, we're talking about some form of counter control. So when we say after, during, and before, we mean a set of things as it relates to the components of the aspect of self-defense, or the definition of self-defense, the two parts involved. When you're in the after, you are really concerned primarily with your defense. In the after would be if you block and then he punches again, you're in the after the first time, they punch it again, you're in the after the second time, you're in the after the third time. Or let's say a real common karate example is someone punches, you block, and then in the next beat you counter. Except we don't show the other person throwing the second punch at that moment, so you win that fictional scenario. So relatively bad training for skill development, but it's a holdover that we often see and sometimes carry forward ourselves. So the idea being that that's a low value response from a skill development and from a response perspective. That's very low value because you might get backed into a corner, you're reacting, you may fail. They have the advantage by being ahead and leading the game. In the during, you're executing both of these aspects of the definition of self-defense at the same time. You're defending and counter-controlling at the same time. So doing simultaneous defense and control at the same time is by and large the primary goal of skill development training from a self-defense perspective. That's the high-value target. Before, the concept of before doesn't mean so much like people talk about sen, sen, no sen. Instead of preempting, we're not saying we're a mugger art, we're going to hit them first, or we're going to decide the moment before they throw the punch, then we throw the punch. No, what we mean by that typically is you have started, you traverse these timings through your response and self-defense. So typically our goal is start either directly in the during and move to the before, or start in the after. Maybe you just block on the first beat, but on the second beat, you block and counter, so you're in the during, so that your hit has some effect and slows down the third punch, so that you can be in the before and unimpeded for your follow-up continuing attempts at control. So that's the idea here. The idea with before is you're now in the lead. You flip the script on the attacker. They started, now you've got them responding to you. So what we jokingly talk about here is the idea that practically anything works in the before. If I'm ahead and you're responding, I have a very high chance of success, especially if I'm very, very much in the before, or I'm applying techniques in a very advanced way where they affect your balance, affect your mind, affect your position. So you're layering multiple options on top of one motion for multiple effects. So if they're down by 2 or 3 effects, turned, twisted, sunk, these things, you're in the before, almost anything will work. Now what we see in a training paradigm is often that people will perform their fictional drills in their schools, and they'll have some bad fiction in there, and the idea is maybe they'll blah through the entry to get to the throw that everybody's working on. The problem will often occur in our own teaching is that you have to earn it. So if you don't earn it, you really probably should not continue into the remainder of the technique. So if the idea is, let's say your training drill construction typically is something like an entry, a repositioning, and a finisher. The idea being that if your repositioning and finisher shouldn't occur if your entry failed. And you should be honest as a student and as a teacher, you should be looking out for that. Or if you've got people coaching one another, they should help remind each other to earn it. So let me switch over to this side just for a second and talk about what we mean more by in the during. So there are a number of options to perform in the during so that you're doing both immediate defense and near immediate counter control, or immediate if possible. And these are either ducking, dodging, or receiving with your ukewaza, your blocking techniques, your hand techniques to receive, so that you stay safe. And at the same time, you're grabbing and pushing or pulling to affect their balance. You're hitting them, elbow, fist, whatever, or you're kicking them. Those are the main options. There are many discrete examples of those, but essentially in the during, you should be performing simultaneous defense and attack. So I hope that helps clarify what we mean by in the after, during, and before. Again, the goal, most of the drills that we construct and we train here start you in the after. You earn a place in the during. You react in such a way that you perform one of these combinations so that you have the chance to then turn the tides and lead the fight for control, imposing your will upon your attacker. Anyhow, let me know your thoughts, your questions, and we'll keep on the discussion. Thanks. Take care. Bye.